Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Deanne, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Messick?
Here.
Trustee Rocco?
Here.
Trustee Sheehan?
Here.
Trustee Casera? Absent. Trustee Zora? Here. Trustee Lautner?
Here.
President DeCipio?
Here.
The quorum is present.
Thank you, Deanne. Our first order of business tonight is I'm going to introduce our new superintendent of District 102. Chief Rompa and Julie and myself had the privilege of sitting down with Dr. Schumacher and having a little chat and talk with him. And I'll tell you, from what I've learned and heard, we're blessed to have him in our community, running our school district. And it will continue to be the quality of the school district that we're all accustomed to. So, Dr. Schumacher, would you please step up and maybe give us a little background and what your thoughts are for the future?
So thank you so much for this opportunity to introduce myself to the community and to this board. I have spent over 25 years in education. I grew up in southern Illinois, which we found some connection with the southern end of the state. Went to the University of Illinois, then really moved up to Chicago and been up here for many years. Was up in Lake Forest for about 17 years prior to being out in Telluride, Colorado, where I spent 4 years as superintendent of schools out there. Due to some family issues with my parents, decided we needed to get back closer to home than the multiple hour days drive of trying to get back to St. Louis all the time. Looked for a position that I felt that would be exciting for me and in a good place, and this was the one that popped up, and I was thrilled to, number one, interview for Grange 102, but then to be called to serve here. Got called in December, and I've been working here since July 1st. It's a great place to be. I'm thrilled with the staff that we have there. The kids, everyone I've met has been very excited about the opportunities that our kids have here in 102, and just seeing the enthusiasm of, from my office, being at Park Junior High, the kids that are coming in and out of there, the energy that's there with the teachers. I think there's sort of a renewed excitement in the school district this year of kind of this moving forward and becoming better tomorrow than we were today. We have a motto that we've been working on: every child, every day, no exceptions, no excuses. And really looking at that as sort of what we're founding and as we're making our decisions. And during that, we're talking about our journey from here to there. We're talking about here was where we were yesterday, and there is where we're going tomorrow. And how do we do that? And how do we continue to make discrete and intentional change in the work that we're doing with our children to better prepare them for tomorrow? Because on August 28th, thereabouts, or 25th, when we started school, we enrolled the high school graduating class of 2028. And when you stop and think about that, what that means, number one, it makes us feel very old, but number two, we realize that in the amount of time when those kids graduate, in the 13 years that those kids will graduate from school, think how different life was 13 years ago. And my presentation to the staff was, think of all the things that no longer exist today that existed 13 years ago. Think of how many more things don't exist that existed when we started kindergarten. So we have a big job cut out for us, and I'm excited for the school board that we have this year. I'm excited for our staff to really move things forward. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Any trustees have any questions for Dr. Schumacher? We're grateful that you're here. We're continuing to hold you in high esteem, even though you're a Cardinals fan.
We all have cause to share.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add my welcome to that.
Thank you.
We're here for you if there's anything we as a board or village can do to help you in your position in District 102. All you have to do is ask us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doctor. Okay, moving on. Public participation of agenda-related items only. Would anyone care to address the board? Would you like to say anything to the board about what's on the agenda? No?
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Ian?
The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. Village Board meeting, August 25th, 2015. Village Board executive session, August 25th, 2015. Work session meeting, September 8th, 2015. Work session, executive session, September 8th, 2015. Item B, action 2015, leaf loading, transportation, and disposal. Motion accepting the proposal of Rainbow Farm Enterprises, Inc. for the disposal of leaves in the amount of $28 per bucket, option number 1, not to exceed $30,000, and authorize the village president to execute the necessary contract documents. Item number C, action right-of-way use license and fiber optic cable, SICOM LLC, DBA WOW Internet Cable and Phone. Motion authorizing the village president to execute a right-of-way use license and fiber optic cable agreement between the village of Grange Park and SICOM LLC doing business as WOW Internet Cable and Phone. Item D, schematic design study, center section storm relief project. Motion authorizing the village president to execute the professional engineering service agreement with Hancock Engineering. Item E, action tree maintenance program contracts, 1-year extension, tree removal, stump removal, general tree maintenance, and emergency tree work. Motion approving a 1-year contract extension with A&B Landscaping and Tree Service, Inc. for tree and stump removals, and with Winkler's Tree and Landscaping for general tree maintenance and for emergency tree work, and authorizing the village president to execute the necessary contract documents. Item F, action, village fund balance reporting policy. Motion to approve a village fund balance reporting policy. Item G, action, motion to authorize the village president and chairperson of the finance committee to sign the register for bills, and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. Item H, action, motion to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and October 27, 2015, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees as its regular meeting to be held on October 27, 2015.
Thank you, Deanne. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Deanne, call the roll.
Excuse me, Mr. President, a question of point of order. Regarding the minutes for September 8th, it's just a spelling error, Robert Council. I don't know if the minutes have to be approved or just to make a notation that his name is Koncel for the record.
You can make that correction. We're not supposed to discuss any consent agenda items.
Okay. Thank you.
So duly noted, Trustee Rocco. We have a motion and a second. Deanne, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Sheehan? Yes.
Sheehan, sorry. Trustee Casera? Absent. Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Lutner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Deanne. Moving on to village manager's report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 items to report this evening to the village board. The first is that staff has created a web page at the village's website regarding the 2016 referenda. There at the web page, we've provided a number of pieces of information that are available to residents that would be very helpful for them to understand the projects for which we are seeking referenda. Secondly, we have also created a web page for the TIF feasibility study that is also linked to our homepage of our website, and there is plenty of information there. For each of those web pages, the information will be updated periodically, so we encourage residents to visit those pages in the coming weeks and come back for continued development of information. And finally, the last item that I have to report is that the village's fire department is hosting its open house on Saturday, October 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you'll note that this is a Saturday. This is the first time we are holding this event on a Saturday, so please mark your calendars. Residents are encouraged to come and join us and learn a lot about fire safety and see demonstrations provided by our firefighters and ride on the ladder truck and the fire engine. And it's sure to be a lot of fun. And again, that's Saturday, October 10th. And I have nothing further to report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, moving on to administration report. Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have a few items to report on to update the community, and then one item for discussion and potential action. First of all, the update items. First item is regarding our community cleanup day. It's been held annually for the last 5 years. Village Cleanup Day is scheduled for Thursday, October 15th. Single-family residences in LaGrange Park will receive a one-time cleanup service on a regularly scheduled collection day. 4 refuse stickers are required to participate. If you choose not to participate, your trash will be handled as a regular pickup. Acceptable items must be placed next to your regular refuse on the curb by 6 a.m. For more information on this program, please call the village at 708-354-0225 or visit the village's website at www.lagrangepark.org. The second item is regarding the e-waste recycling day. Bring in your old computers and electronic equipment and get rid of it for free. The village's Cool Village Commission is hosting its 5th annual e-waste recycling event on Saturday, October 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the village's Public Works facility, which is located at 937 Barnesdale Road. For more information on what items will be accepted, please call the village or visit the village's website. And the third item the third of 4 items to update is LaGrange Park's Chamber of Commerce events. On Friday, October 30th, the LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce will be sponsoring its annual Haunted Trolley Trick or Treat event. This free event will be held from 4 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. Parents and children are invited to hop on a trolley at one of several locations, including the LaGrange Park Community Park District facility, the Village Market, and locations along 31st Street. The trolleys will travel along a designated route, dropping patrons at specific stops so that children can trick or treat amongst the various businesses. For those wishing to participate in the Community Park District's costume party, hop a trolley back to the Park District after the event to continue the fun with games, a magician, and more. For more information on this event, visit the Chamber's website. And our upcoming State of the Village address is scheduled for Thursday, October 8th here at Village Hall at 7 p.m. We welcome and encourage all residents to attend this free event. Village President James DeCipio will provide an overview of the village's budget infrastructure projects that are underway and progress on special efforts such as commercial revitalization. So we encourage all village residents to attend this. That concludes the items to update the community on. The next area is for discussion and potential action, and it's regarding the Dinner Club liquor license request. A little bit of background on this is that the Dinner Club, an existing business located in downtown LaGrange, has recently signed a lease to relocate their operations to the Village Market. The proprietors of the business have submitted a letter, which is attached to our packet, to the Village Board requesting the ability to sell packaged beer and wine to supplement their existing meal preparation business. Additionally, they would also like to permit patrons to bring your own bottle, bring your own alcoholic beverage. The village currently offers 7 classes of liquor licenses, which is identified in our packet here as classes A through G, which are briefly described below and described in detail in the section 112.19, which is also attached. The number of each type of license issued is also restricted as detailed in section 112.20, which is also attached. In our packet, a brief summary has been provided for each one of the classes. Our staff has done a very thorough analysis on this, and the village does not currently have a class of liquor license that accommodates the request being made by the Dinner Club at this time. which is considered to be a service business that provides prepared meals or box lunch services to the public for consumption off-site. The village's Class F liquor license would allow the dinner club to sell packaged wine or beer, but it would not allow for consumption of the wine or beer on the premises or for patrons to the BYOB. The village's Class B liquor license would allow for the sale of wine or beer either in the original package or for consumption on the premises, but under our current regulations cannot be issued to the businesses like the dinner club that provide packaged meal or box lunch services, and it would not permit patrons to BYOB. Staff has talked about this at length, and their recommendation is that this time, they don't have any concerns with allowing the businesses such as the dinner club to sell wine and beer either in package or for consumption on the premises. The sale of wine or beer complements the existing service these types of businesses provide, of course. It would allow for the individual business to expand its sales, which I think is a very good thing for the village as well, which also providing an additional convenience and amenity to residents patronizing the business. More specifically, it would provide for increased control over any alcohol being consumed on site, as consumption would be limited to what is purchased by the patron for the establishment. At this point, the staff is not recommending that we immediately pursue the BYOB. There's a lot of analysis that needs to be done. Staff is certainly not against this and have provided additional information that was sent to the board prior to this meeting this evening that kind of stated their position regarding the BYOB aspect. But what we're looking for this evening is for a motion to authorize the staff to proceed with some amendments to our liquor code that, based upon discussion here at the board level, that would provide them direction on how we want them to proceed as it relates to the license for the dinner club as well as the BYOB provision. So with that, I will submit a motion to direct our village staff to draft an ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 112, Alcoholic Beverages of the Grange Park Municipal Code.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's very exciting to see the new business coming into the village. I think that the additional amenities of providing packaged beer and wine, I think, is an add to the business from what they currently have. And in talking with the individuals around the community, I also had some conversation with village staff, and I know that Julia and/or her staff are prepared to talk a little bit more about the current status of the BYOB aspect. But from my perspective, I would certainly support a modification and an increase of liquor licenses to the village to incorporate this feature for the dinner club, and would certainly support and encourage our staff to look into the BYOB provisions and look to see what would be the ramifications, what additional considerations we would need to make if and when we would consider a BYOB aspect of that.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Messick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would concur. I would be adding another license for the sale, and to look into reasonable regulation for a BYOB. I think it's an exciting idea. It's a great idea, and it looks like, they're talking mostly beer and wine. So we have some direction based on their request, and I guess the last. Looking into reasonable regulation, insurance, and all that. But I would support a BYOB too as soon as we can. I would support directing staff to look into a reasonable recommendation for that. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Messick. Trustee Zora?
I agree with both trustee Messick and trustee Lautner. We're excited to have another business into the area, so that's great. And also BYOB would be nice too, so I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Zora. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it's exciting to welcome a new business to town. I'd like to welcome the proprietors. Good luck. I've heard good things about your business in the Grange. Welcome you. I would be in favor too, as my co-trustees are. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Trustee Rocco?
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome to LaGrange Park. I think it's very exciting, and I'm also in support of doing the study to determine about the BYOB. I think that would be great. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. And I too want to welcome the Dinner Club. Welcome, and thank you for choosing our community, and we look forward to supporting your business. Julia, would you care to talk a little bit? I know in speaking with you, and I know you've talked to the chief and Emily, and the liquor license that we want to do to sell beer and wine and have it on the premises is really not a big issue. The board has to vote on it. However, the BYOB could be a little bit taxing as far as the amount of work that the staff would have to do, and I support it. I'm just a little bit concerned at this point, what availability does the staff have to go down this path, and when would you recommend that we pursue it?
Yes, Mr. President. I can talk a little bit, and I'll also turn the microphone over to our Assistant Village Manager, who was the project lead on this particular issue. From our perspective, we are used to, or we are certainly very understanding of the existing licenses that we have in town in terms of our day-to-day operations, regulations, making sure that those licenses are in place, making sure that we communicate with each of our business in terms of what is required to maintain, obtain, maintain those licenses. We're familiar with the state requirements related to such. We have regular conversations with our businesses that hold our liquor licenses. With regard to BYOB, this is not something that we've spent a lot of time researching. We are aware that other villages do provide BYO types of classifications. We've done some preliminary research, and we also have some understanding as to how the state regulates this. But for us to actually create a BYO classification and understand all of the ramifications, both in terms of to what level do we regulate it? What types of rules should we put into place? What kind of requirements should there be? Or just having a best practices in place, which a lot of communities have, which advises the businesses as to how to conduct a business under BYO. And also with regard to the law enforcement side of things with our police officers, we just need more time as staff to talk these things through. We'd like to be able to talk with the businesses who have asked us about BYO in the past, what their thoughts are in the future. We'd also like an opportunity to talk with other villages that have had a BYO classification in place for quite some time. And we'd also like the opportunity to discuss as staff. So that will take some time to put this information together and come up with a recommendation that we think would fit well with the business community that we have in place with the village. So it would, I anticipate it would take a few months to put that together. We could certainly do that sooner, but in talking with LaGrange, I know that their consideration of a BYO took several months to put together because they wanted to make sure that they did it once, that it was thorough, it addressed the different types of businesses that were in town and what it was that they were looking for and how they might be able to provide an additional benefit or amenity to the businesses, an additional attraction for people wanting to patronize those types of businesses. We could do something spring or sooner. It really is, at the direction of the board, what priority the board feels that this is at. We could certainly get something sooner. We could do it as soon as 2 months. I would recommend a little bit longer than that so that we had an opportunity to do the research, given the projects that we're working on. But certainly, whatever priority the board feels that this is at, we're happy to accommodate.
I think it's obvious that the board supports going down this path, and we want to support the Dinner Club. My only concern is a reasonable time frame. considering everything else that staff has on their plate at this point, and maybe Emily can speak to that.
Did you want to add to anything that I said, because you've been on point on this?
With regard to timing, as the village manager mentioned, we certainly will work to accommodate whatever the board is looking for. I guess my initial thought is really a large focus for us moving forward. These next couple months is certainly the 2016 referendum and that public education effort, along with moving forward with the TIF feasibility study, selecting the consultant, and hoping to get them underway before I go on leave. I know there may be somebody that will be filling in while I'm gone that may have some time to assist with that project, but that hasn't really been finalized at this point. So a little bit up in the air as to whether or not we'd have somebody that would be able to assist with that. Certainly something that we could dive right into when I got back much more easily. But if it's something the board really wants us to look at now, we can make.
What is the timeline for your business coming into LaGrange Park? So if it's the board's preference to have a BYOB in place by the end of the year, we just need to know that, and we could accommodate that. We would reprioritize our workload, or if this is something that can wait, we can address this in the spring. It's entirely up to the board.
Yes, and I guess my only concern again is that, you know, we want to certainly accommodate our proprietors and we want to bring them the best venue to our village. I'm just a little bit concerned with Emily going on leave and what we have that you're tackling at this point, whether we can loosely afford staff time at this point to look at that option and do the job that you guys always do, which is a quality job, without deferring away from the referendum and the TIF study, which we have on our plate right now. And maybe if I can get some comments from my fellow trustees to see what their thoughts are. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I think obviously everyone agrees we want to do this right. You know, we want to make sure that we go down the right path at the right time and incorporate all the things that we talked about that we would want to make sure that we're thinking through. The second part is that I think we want to do everything that we can reasonably to help our new business succeed. One of the things that in reading the materials and information that wasn't lost on me was that, well, it's an ad that you're going to have the ability to sell packaged liquor that you don't have today, yet at the same time you have a base of customers that you're hoping that you'll bring with you that have become accustomed to BYOB. So somewhere along the discussion, I would be interested in knowing how big of an issue do you see the BYOB considering your current base, and from your perspective, the level of urgency, and maybe kind of weigh that information in with what we have on our plate already.
Mhm.
That's the case, then the B.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's,
Cool.
we're all in agreement, that's what we want to do. So,
I would say, you know,
and then work on the other aspect as we move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, that seems like that would be preferential to help build your sales as well.
Everybody good?
Yes.
Yes. that's
Super.
great.
See what communication does? Thank you so much. Deanne, call the roll?
Trustee Messich?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera? Absent. Trustee Zara?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Deanne.
And that concludes my report and item for discussion and action. Mr. President.
Okay. Okay, next we have Building and Zoning Committee. Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Building and Zoning, Trustee Zara.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few building department activity updates from August of 2015. 99 building permits were issued this past August as compared to 111 in August of 2014. Year to date, the village has issued 48 fewer permits as the same time last year. The estimated construction costs in the month are nearly double what they were compared to August of 2014. Permit fees are also nearly double. 155 inspections were conducted this past August, with 19 not approved. As of the end of August, 15 inspections have been conducted year-to-date as compared to last year. As you are aware, on August 19th, a roof truss failed at Ace Hardware. Based upon information contained from the structural engineering evaluation, the village issued a conditional temporary occupancy, which allowed for Ace to reopen with specific conditions until it is developed and approved to repair the roof. During the month, we approved reimbursement for 3 projects related to sewer back prevention program. Total reimbursements for the month were $7,525. Staff worked with the Park District related to Island Night on August 12th. An incident action plan was developed and staff conducted an inspection of the site. Also, staff worked with the Camboni mission related to Camboni Fest. We reviewed general safety and health sanitation requirements with their staff on the afternoon of the event. During the month, the home in 1400 Black Beach, previously declared unfit for occupancy, was re-inspected after a group of volunteers cleaned the home. Based upon the inspection and as of the completion of the work, the resident was going to be allowed back. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. And scrolling down, we have next Engineering and Capital Projects Committee. In absence of Trustee Casera, I've asked Trustee Rocco to give the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 3 items. The work is virtually complete on the Illinois Department of Transportation contract for Kenman Avenue resurfacing project from 31st Street to 26th Street. The only item still remaining is the repair of the electrical access handholds for the traffic signals at 31st Street. The approval from IDOT for these repairs is expected in early September, and the work will be performed immediately thereafter. The installation of the replacement sidewalk will complete the construction phase of this project. Second, the repaving of Cleveland Avenue from 30th Street to 26th Street by GA Paving was completed in June. Final landscape restoration has been initiated, but is now suspended until early fall to await more favorable weather conditions. And the third item, in July, the village received bids for the resurfacing of Pine Tree Lane and the portion of Finsbury Lane that was not part of the McNaughton development. A contract was awarded to the low responsible bidder, GA Paving LLC. Since the village is utilizing motor fuel tax funds for a portion of this work, the Illinois Department of Transportation must review and approve all contract documents prior to work beginning. The contract documents are at IDOT and expect to be back in late August. Work is expected to begin early September with completion by the end of the month. And that is all I have to report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. Moving on, Public Safety Committee, Trustee Messick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Report for August 2015. First, we'll start with the police. Total number of crimes reported is very similar to the same time frame as last year. There were 155 total in 2014 compared to 154 through August of this year. Police service and assistance is lower than last year at this time, with 4,224 incidents reported through August 2015 as compared to 4,621 reported through August of last year. The police department will be hosting a bike auction on Saturday, September 26th, this coming Saturday, in the rear of the department by the garage. Also, the same date, there will be a drug take-back in affiliation with the DEA that will happen from 10 to 2. Location will be the lobby area of the Village Hall. Traffic enforcement continues to rise with the 4,085 total citations issued through August of 2015 as compared to 4,072 from August of last year. In addition, the Patrol Division will start issuing tickets for the 2015 non-compliancy of village stickers by early October. And that concludes Police Department, and now on to Fire Department activities. EMS responses for this month were 148. There have been 337 year-to-date compared to 354 year-to-date last year. Fire rescue incidents this month were 60, and there have been 1,165 year-to-date compared to 1,027 in the same period last year. On Tuesday evening, August 4th, personnel participated in the National Night Out by displaying fire department vehicles and having Sparky greet those in attendance. Early in the month, the EMS were called to a home in the village for a male in cardiac arrest. CPR was initially performed by family members, and following aggressive advanced life support treatment by EMS personnel, the patient's pulse and breathing were restored prior to arriving at the hospital. During the month, the personnel began using a home in the 500 block of North Catherine Avenue, which was scheduled for demolition, to conduct training. And there was various responses throughout the month by the fire department, and that concludes the fire report and public safety, Mr. President.
There's one more item, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's the emergency generator.
Yes.
One action item. Background, in 2009, the village was awarded a federal grant for a replacement generator for the village hall in the amount of $150,000. Shortly after notification, we were notified that the grant would be processed through the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Illinois Emergency Management Agency as a local pre-disaster mitigation grant requiring a 25% local match. PDM grants funds require that the village has a hazard mitigation plan in place. This prerequisite was fulfilled on November 11th of last year when the board approved the Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional All Hazards Mitigation Plan. The village approved a modified grant agreement with IEMA on February 10th following the completion of engineering design, which included a modified scope of work to include the removal of the existing generator fuel tank. Subsequently, IEMA and FEMA approved the modified budget in the amount of $200,000. The grant share is $150,000. The local share is 25% or $50,000, which is budgeted in emergency telephone system fund. The replacement generator will be located in the rear yard of the village, proximate to existing HVAC equipment. As such, the village was required to obtain zoning relief from the ZBA for location of the equipment and the height of the screening fence. The village board approved the ZBA's recommendation for variation on July 28th of this year. Village staff then directed project engineer to prepare documents for bidding. Gary Wall of Baxter and Woodman Engineering had prepared the necessary bid specs, and the bid opening was held on September 9th of this year. The village received 5 bids, and the lowest bidder was Lyons and Pinner Electric of Grange in the amount of $216,700. The bid results and recommendation are attached. Staff recommends that the board accept the project engineer's recommendation, and which brings us to the motion. Like I said, the project engineer does not recommend acceptance of any of the alternates at this time. The costs for the additional sound attenuation are substantial when considering the extent of the anticipated reduction. Once installed and running, the village may wish to further evaluate whether additional sound attenuation is necessary for the inside of the fence. The lowest bid at $216,700 is $16,700 above what the village has included in this year's budget. The cost overage is likely due to project cost increases over time in general and related to disposal fees, more specifically in the addition of the boundary fence for the neighbor to the south. Staff recommends that the village utilize funds available in Capital Projects Fund to address the budgetary gap. Staff is verified with Finance Director that the funds are available. IEMA and FEMA have confirmed with the village they are unable to increase the amount of the grant to cover the shortfall. Village staff has made a formal request for additional funding to the Cook County Department of Homeland Security, and we're awaiting their response. Finally, through our lobbyists, we have submitted inquiries to our state legislators and our congressmen. While the project has exceeded the budgeted amount, there have been 2 positive outcomes to date as a result of the grant process. First, the village now has a hazard mitigation plan in place, making us eligible for FEMA assistance now and in the future. Cook County completed this plan with its participating communities as annexes at no cost to the villages. Secondly, the village was able to expand the scope of the project to include the removal of an older underground storage tank, mitigating any future environmental impacts to the soil. So the motion is to approve a contract to the lowest bidder, Lyons and Pinner Electric, in the amount of $216,700 for the emergency generator replacement project.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Messick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would support this, yes. Unfortunately, it went beyond the budgeted amount, but we still are getting $150,000 towards the project, and it's something to be needed, that's needed, as well as to be responsible to our neighbor to the south. And we do have money in the budget, as much as we like to be conservative. And so I would support, going forth with this, and hopefully we can recoup some of it through the aforementioned things in there.
Thank you, Trustee Messick. Any other comments? Deanne, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera? Absent. Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And now that concludes public safety. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Messick. Okay, moving on, Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brief overview of activities for the department for the month of August. Brush pickup took place in the first full week in August. 54 hours were spent making several passes through town, removing approximately 176 yards of brush from the parkway. 23 hours were spent on tree inspections and trimming. 111 hours were spent on the maintenance of public works equipment and vehicles. 42 hours were spent filling potholes with 12 tons of UPM. 40 hours were spent repairing streets from previous main breaks and approximately 15 tons of UPM. 193 hours were spent on building and ground maintenance around the Village Hall, Public Works facility, and along 31st Street. The street sweeper cleaned over 146 miles of street during 96 hours and picked up 36 yards of debris. Barricades were delivered for 15 block parties during the month. Various work orders were completed with crews removing roadkill, tree trimming, individual brush pickups, parkway repairs, cleaning sewer catch basins, and making sign repairs. Various preventive maintenance and repairs were performed on public works, police, and fire equipment vehicles. Water department operation, over 336 day shift hours and 116 overtime man hours during the month of August were spent on maintenance and repairs of sewer and water mains. 42,320,000 gallons of water were purchased from the Brookfield North Riverside Water Commission. 1,477 water meters were read in Section 2. 52 monthly accounts and 27 final meter readings were taken. Various inspections, appointments, and service calls were performed. 15 water bacterial samples were taken and all samples passed. 181 utility locations were identified prior to excavation. 2 water mains and 1 service leak were repaired. 3 valve box repairs were made. Also at this time, Mr. President, on a note, a week ago Sunday, there was a main break near our house, and I just want to commend our crew that came out on a Sunday. It was a pretty intense break, and there were other conflicts with other utilities in the area. And I think the way that the lead crew operator, Gary, handled himself, I didn't stick around to observe too much. But what I did see, I think we have a future leader. He definitely took control of the crew, and everything went smooth. And I'd be remorseful if I didn't mention John and Casey, too, for coming out on a Sunday. Everything was textbook, and they need to be commended for that.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan.
That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
It's always great to hear good things, isn't it? And we hear a lot of them. Okay, Finance Committee, Trustee Rocco.
Thank you, Mr. President. To report for the summary for the financial performance through August 31st of 2015, we're for 33% through our fiscal year. The highlights of fiscal year to date, general fund revenue is at 44% of the annual budget and approximately $236,000 greater than last year. Property tax receipts are about $70,000 higher than last year at this time. Sales tax revenue is essentially unchanged from the prior year. Natural gas receipts have dropped about 51% from last year. Prior year receipts were significantly higher due to extreme cold weather at the end of the 2014 winter. Permit revenue jumped in July due to a single large permit and is now about 40% above last year. Intergovernmental revenue is 20% greater than last year due to increased receipts from state shared revenues, including income tax, personal property replacement tax, and use tax. IDOR has reported that the increase in income tax is likely partially due to overwithholding by employers who did not adjust the state tax rate from 5% to 3.75%. This would result in lower income tax receipts later in the year. Charges for services are about $39,000 greater than last year, primarily due to higher ambulance fee collections. Miscellaneous revenue is about $36,000 lower than the prior year due to the timing of the tower rental fee collections. Total revenue expenditures are within expectations at 30% of the annual budget and $583,000 lower than last year. Last year's budget included the $1.2 million transfer to the Capital Projects Fund compared to $200,000 this year. Excluding the difference in the capital transfer, total fiscal year-to-date expenditures are about $56,000 below last year. That concludes my report, and there is one action item. The action item is for temporary staffing services. The purpose of this is to approve payment to Stivers Staffing Services for temporary employee services. Since June, the Finance Department has utilized Stivers Staffing Services to fill the vacant administrative clerk position due to the previous administrative clerk transitioning to the executive secretary position. Deanne? Engaging the temporary service allows the department to quickly bring someone in to handle the additional workload due to vehicle sticker sales. The temporary staff had experience with the village during a previous vacancy and was able to get up to speed quickly. Due to the potential cuts to the village's shared revenues, the Finance Department is holding off on permanently filling the position. Unfortunately, there has been no resolution on the state budget, and the position is necessary to the Finance Department's current operations. Therefore, we're moving ahead with filling the position and plan to continue utilizing the services of Stivers for a few more months while we complete the hiring process. As such, the payments to Stivers will exceed $10,000 and requires village board approval. The hourly rate of $21.95 for the temporary services is currently below the entry-level salary, taxes, and benefits for the administrative clerk position. Approval of a not-to-exceed amount of $28,000 will provide for services through the end of 2015. Staff recommends approval of the payment for services with Stivers Staffing Services. So I move to approve the payment of temporary employee services with Stivers Staffing Services in amount not to exceed $28,000.
Second.
With a motion and a second, discussion, trustee Rocco?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it seems to make sense for us to do it. The only question I have is it better to stick with the temporary if it's cheaper than hiring somebody for an indefinite period, or are we losing value by not having somebody permanent?
That would be my response, is that, you know, it's an important position. It's, while the person that's been staffing it has done a very good job, it's a frontline position. You really do want to have a person that's going to be there for a long time, knows the system in and out. And there's a lot of things that, even though we have someone there right now, they're not doing all the work that that position normally does.
Thank you, Director. With that in mind, then I support that we do this, and it allows adequate time for Director Noller to adequately find someone to fill the position who he feels comfortable with.
Thank you, trustee Rocco. Any comments from trustees? Deanne, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera absent. Trustee Zora? Yes. Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Deanne.
And Mr. President, that does conclude the report of the action items, but I would like to congratulate the LaGrange Park Fire Department for winning the softball championship for the Hinsdale annual softball champion that they host. And I understand that they raised $10,000, which was fantastic also. Oh, Oh.
Maybe that's why they won. I played every other year and we never took first place.
I thought that's why they called you the babe. Another reason. Okay. We won't go there. Thank you, Trustee Rocco.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations, Chief, to you and your department. Other reports, Village Clerk? It is not quite Deanne, I'm sorry.
I have nothing to report, Mr. President.
Village Treasurer? Or Village Engineer?
Nothing to report tonight, sir.
Or Village Attorney?
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Motion to approve Committee and Collectors Report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, my report. I have a couple items I'd like to talk about first before I get into the agenda. Number one is, you know, we're blessed to, when we have hire people, that we have great help the way that we do. I mean, all our department heads, Julie and Emily, have done a great job in providing us with great staff. And I have to say, with my interactions with our new Executive Secretary, Deanne, has been nothing but phenomenal. She's doing a great job for us. I've talked to Julia about it, and we are blessed and pleased to have you here with us, Deanne.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, I have a question, Chief Rampa. We talked about the BYOB. The police side of it, is there additional training and things that go into this when we bring into position a new liquor law?
What'll happen
ordinance?
is we'll be educated on it better, and the training goes with them as well as us, but there is some training that's involved for the ownership as well as the department. So it's kind of a uniform front, so yes, there is. But I just want to make sure their training from what they're bringing in is meeting the up-to-date requirements so that they can do what's needed for the BYOB as well as selling and carting and making sure everybody is legit inside the business. That, along with what the department has to go through with that new turmoil of BYOB being looked at from our perspective, is something that has to be brought in.
Okay, so it's not just an administrative change. There's big changes in your department, too. Thank you. Thanks, Chief. We attended the IML conference. I know that Julie and Emily were down there, and Trustee Messick and Trustee Rocco. Would either of the two trustees care to make any comments about the IML conference? Trustee Messick, let's start with you.
As always, it's very informative, and it's a good conference, but we also learned some things about TIFs, which is something that's currently on the thing. So there's some good sessions on that. You know, so you get the general legislative update, which is dire. But I said I would urge my fellow trustees in the future, if you can ever get down there. They said there's many good sessions, and it's also a good chance to network with other people, see how people in other villages are doing some of what we do. And I thank the village for making it available for us to attend.
Thank you, Trustee Messick. Trustee Rocco?
Thank you, Mr. President. As every year that I've gone, I find it very informative. I love the breakout sections. I learn something new each time I go, and I do support what Trustee Messick said, that if you're able to attend, it's a great event to attend, and it is very informative. I learned from parliamentary procedures that a motion does not necessarily have to be second in order for it to be discussed. So you're always learning something new. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco, and I'll defer to our attorney on that. Okay, next thing. I want to mention, as Trustee Lautner did already, the State of the Village address. I've asked the staff to go in a different direction with this year. We have very eloquent speakers in our department heads, much so more so eloquent than I am. And so what I've asked is that we incorporate everyone into the presentation, where I just do the introduction and maybe the closing, and the meat of the presentation comes from our wonderful department heads and our staff and everyone involved. I think it would bring a new flavor to the State of the Village address, and I think our community would love to see faces with names and hear from those people that run our day-to-day operations. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't have to study that much, and I don't have to memorize that much. So thank you guys for participating and taking part in this wonderful event. And that's on October 8th, as Trustee Lautner said. Next is discussion and action on the appointment of Zoning Board of Appeals member. And again, we're scrolling. Actually, we're scrolling back. There we go. Okay. There is currently a vacant position on the Zoning Board of Appeals due to the appointment of Jamie Zara to the Village Board, which we are so blessed. I am recommending that Mr. Robert Bartholomew be appointed to serve the unexpired term. Mr. Bartholomew currently works downtown Chicago in the healthcare system. Although he has not served on a village committee previously, he participated in the Community Advisory Board for the Brainerd Project. I offer his name for the Village Board's consideration to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals to fill the current vacancy and term. I interviewed, well, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to appoint Robert Bartholomew to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire May 1st, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I interviewed Mr. Bartholomew, and I had Julia come in towards the end of the interview. I felt him to be a good candidate. He's knowledgeable in the area of zoning. He's putting some work into his home, and so he's that intimate relationship with our people, our staff, and learning the zoning codes and what's going on. He has a tremendous interest in serving our community. Any other comments from what any of the trustees may have concerning Mr. Bartholomew? Deanne, the roll, please.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera? Absent. Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Deanne. I have two proclamations. Don't wait, communicate, make your emergency plan today. Whereas each year, communities across our country face emergencies from unforeseen natural disasters to deliberate acts, the test of our nation's grit and challenge us to overcome tragedy. Whereas each of us can do our part and together we can protect our families and help our village by planning for emergencies and for the unexpected. Whereas every September we celebrate our nation's spirit of resilience by rededicating ourselves to the important task of being prepared in the face of any crisis. Whereas emergencies come in many forms, from house fires to accidents to floods. Although we cannot always control how, when, or where they may occur, we can prepare practical responses before disasters strike by discussing how we can protect ourselves with our families, friends, and neighbors. Whereas this month, I encourage all residents and business owners to holster their readiness in the event of a crisis. When emergencies happen, our village together must ensure that we have the support and resources needed to respond and recover. And whereas during this month, residents and businesses should embrace the encouraged actions of don't wait, communicate, make your emergency plan today, to renew our commitment to ready ourselves, our families, and our village for any challenge. Therefore, Village and Board of Trustees of LaGrange Park do hereby proclaim September 25th as September 2015 as National Preparedness Month. The second proclamation is Hear the Beep, Where You Sleep. Whereas the Village of LaGrange Park is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in our village. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. Whereas 3 out of 5 home fire deaths result from fires in properties without working smoke alarms. Whereas in 1/5 of all homes with smoke alarms, none were working. Whereas working smoke alarms, fire sprinklers, and planning and practicing a home fire escape plan will greatly increase your chances of surviving a home fire. Whereas the LaGrange Park Fire Department is dedicated to promoting strong fire safety practices, such as providing public fire safety education in the schools throughout the month and at their annual open house taking place this year on October 10th. And whereas 2015 Fire Prevention Week theme, Hear the Beep, Where You Sleep, effectively serves to remind us all to now have working smoke detectors on every floor of your home, including every room where someone sleeps. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Village and Board of Trustees of LaGrange Park do hereby proclaim October 4th through the 10th, 2015 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this village, and urges all the people of LaGrange Park to protect their homes and families by heeding the important safety messages of Fire Prevention Week. That is all that I have. Now, public participation of non-agenda related items. Anyone care to address the board? Seeing none, any new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.